A tense quiet has settled over the US-Canada border, stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The silence is heavy, almost unnatural, as if the land itself is holding its breath. This is not the calm of peace, but the uneasy pause before a storm, an anxious anticipation that grips everyone from border agents to business owners on both sides. A major trade conflict is brewing, threatening a relationship that has been stable and mutually beneficial for generations. The flow of goods, people, and ideas, once taken for granted, now faces unprecedented uncertainty. At the center of this storm stands President Donald Trump, wielding tariffs as both weapon and bargaining chip, determined to force new trade terms that he believes will put America first. His aggressive approach collides with Canada's careful diplomacy, now led by newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney, who faces the daunting task of defending Canadian interests while avoiding escalation. In July 2025, Trump issued a stark ultimatum, imposing heavy tariffs on Canadian goods unless a new, more favorable deal is reached. The announcement sent shockwaves through boardrooms and households alike. Canada, forced into a corner by the threat of economic pain, made its first significant concession, a move that could shift the entire dynamic of the negotiations and set a precedent for future talks. But will this be enough to satisfy Trump, or will it only embolden him to demand even more sweeping changes? The uncertainty is palpable. The stakes are enormous. Billions of dollars in trade, thousands of jobs, and the very nature of US-Canada relations hang in the balance. Industries from agriculture to automotive are bracing for impact, and markets are already reacting. The coming days will define the future of this vital partnership, shaping not just economic ties but the political landscape of North America for years to come. This is more than a dispute over numbers. It's a test of power, strategy, and the ability of two nations to find common ground in a rapidly changing world. The world is watching closely as North America faces a defining moment, with allies and rivals alike gauging the outcome and its global implications. Let's explore how we arrived at this crossroads and what the future might hold for the continent's most important partnership. The crisis erupted when President Trump threatened a 30% tariff on Canadian imports, effective August 1, 2025. This was no idle threat. Trump made it public, forcing Canada to act fast. The same ultimatum hit the EU and Mexico, signaling a global strategy to reshape trade in America's favor. White House advisor Kevin Hassett confirmed, the tariffs are real, not a bluff. Trump's demand is simple: a new deal now, or face economic pain. For Canada, whose economy relies on US trade, the threat is existential. A 30% tariff would disrupt supply chains, devastate industries, and raise prices on both sides of the border. The Canadian government faces a national crisis, forced to respond under immense pressure. The clock is ticking toward the August deadline. Every moment is filled with tension as Canada weighs its next move. The world holds its breath. Hi now? Why is this the moment for a dramatic push to rewrite the rules of North American trade? The answer lies at the intersection of politics, economics, and a shifting global landscape. Trump's trade worldview has always been clear. He believes past deals weakened the US and left American workers behind. He's long argued that the country's economic strength was undermined by agreements that favored foreign competitors. He sees trade deficits as losses, not just numbers on a balance sheet, but real jobs lost and communities hollowed out. Trump wants a final, corrected relationship that puts American workers and industries first, reversing decades of perceived decline. The timing is political. Trump's tough stance energizes his base, dominates headlines, and sends a message to both allies and rivals that the US is ready to fight for its interests. With new Canadian leadership and global uncertainty, the White House senses an opportunity to reshape the playing field. The world is watching, and the stakes are higher than ever. The administration bets that the threat of tariffs and hardline tactics will force concessions once thought impossible, using economic leverage as a tool for negotiation. But Trump wants more than tweaks. He seeks fundamental changes that will leave a lasting legacy. More US access to Canadian markets, especially in sectors like agriculture and dairy that have long been protected, stronger protections for American tech and intellectual property, ensuring that innovation stays at home and is rewarded, and incentives for manufacturing to return home, rebuilding the industrial heartland and creating new opportunities for American workers. The furious pace and high-pressure tactics are all part of a strategy for a decisive win, aiming to secure a deal that can be touted as a major victory. For Trump, this is about fulfilling a core campaign promise and redefining America's global role, showing the world that the U.S. will no longer settle for less. The stakes are as much political as economic, with the outcome likely to influence not just markets, but the very direction of American policy for years to come. The outcome will shape North American trade for years, setting the tone for future negotiations and the continent's economic future. Acing imminent economic disaster, Canada made a calculated concession to the U.S. in early July 2025. The details remain secret, but the message is clear. Canada is willing to negotiate to avoid catastrophe. For Prime Minister Carney, it's a double-edged sword. Pragmatic crisis management, but risky politically. The danger: Trump may see this as weakness and push for more. Inside Canada's government, debate raged: stand firm or compromise to protect jobs. Carney chose pragmatism, hoping to shift the tone and avert disaster. Now, the ball is in Washington's court. Will the U.S. see this as good faith or as a crack to exploit? Carney's political future and Canada's economy hang in the balance. The next American move will set the course for what comes next. The stakes could not be higher. Mark Carney, Canada's new Prime Minister, faces the toughest test of his career. A former central banker, Carney is known for calm, data-driven leadership, now pitted against Trump's aggressive style. Carney's challenge? Protect Canada's economy without appearing to bow to U.S. pressure. His recent concession was pragmatic, but risks backlash at home from those demanding a firmer stand. Canadians expect strength and sovereignty, not capitulation. Carney walks a tightrope, balancing economic realities with political expectations. His election promised stability and competence. Now that promise is on the line. The trade dispute is a crucible for his leadership style. Can his measured approach succeed against Trump's fury? The answer may decide not just his government's fate, but Canada's future direction. The world is watching Carney's next move. The stakes are personal and national. The trade dispute is a clash of styles. Trump's urgency and anger versus Carney's composure. Trump's strategy is high pressure, ultimatums, deadlines, and economic threats. The message: America wants results now. Canada counters with calm, emphasizing fairness and mutual respect. Carney's team signals willingness to negotiate, but draws a line: no deal at any cost. The U.S. leverages power. Canada relies on principle and partnership. It's an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Canada's first concession shows the pressure is real, but their core position remains. The world watches. Will fury break resolve, or will calm force compromise? The outcome will set a precedent for global negotiations. The U.S.-Canada trade fight sends shockwaves worldwide, with governments and industries scrambling to respond to the sudden escalation. The ripple effects are being felt far beyond North America, as countries and companies everywhere brace for a new era of uncertainty. The European Union now faces the same 30% tariff threat as Canada, and is preparing a robust set of countermeasures. EU leaders are targeting billions in U.S. goods, from agricultural products to industrial machinery, hoping to send a clear message that they won't back down easily. Across Europe, industries are feeling the heat. French cheesemakers worry about losing access to American markets, German car manufacturers fear higher costs and shrinking sales, and workers in countless sectors brace for layoffs or production cuts. Many companies are now scrambling to diversify away from the U.S. market, seeking new buyers in Asia, South America, and Africa. Business leaders are urgently rethinking supply chains and export strategies to reduce their vulnerability. Amid the turmoil, traditional allies are drawing closer together, forging new partnerships and strengthening old ones in the face of shared challenges. The EU and Canada recently held a high-profile summit to reinforce their partnership, signaling unity and determination to stand up to U.S. pressure. Both sides are exploring ways to deepen economic ties and coordinate their responses. The EU is also pursuing new trade deals, such as with Indonesia, to hedge against American unpredictability and open up fresh opportunities for growth. Canada is not alone in this struggle. It's part of a broader group of allies, including Japan, Australia, and the UK, all facing similar threats and looking for ways to support each other. The EU's response will heavily influence Canada's strategy. If Europe stands firm, Ottawa may feel emboldened to do the same. But if the EU concedes, Canada's position could weaken significantly. Canadian officials are watching closely, aware that their own economic stability and negotiating power hang in the balance. This conflict is forging new alliances and reshaping global trade dynamics, as countries seek to protect their interests and adapt to a rapidly changing landscape. Traditional partners are now coordinating their responses to Washington's aggressive policies, sharing intelligence and strategies to minimize the fallout. The world's economic order is shifting, and the outcome of these trade battles will shape the future of international commerce for years to come. As the August deadline looms, three paths emerge. First, Canada's concession could spark real negotiations, leading to compromise and a soft landing, more U.S. access but protections for key Canadian sectors. Second, Trump could see weakness and escalate, demanding more. If Canada resists, tariffs hit, triggering a trade war, mutual pain, higher prices, lost jobs. Third, the deadline could be extended, prolonging uncertainty and chilling investment on both sides. Each path carries risks: economic chaos, political fallout, or lingering instability. The outcome depends on political calculations in Washington and Ottawa. Will Trump settle for a win or push for total victory? Will Carney hold firm or concede more to avoid disaster? The next weeks are critical. The decisions made now will define U.S.-Canada relations for years. The stakes could not be higher. This is more than a trade spat. It's a defining moment for North America. Trump's demands and Canada's measured response test the foundation of decades-long partnership. The outcome will decide if cooperation survives or if a new era of conflict begins. For ordinary people, the impact is real: higher prices, job losses, and uncertainty. The deep integration of both economies means pain will be shared. Canada now faces hard questions about its reliance on the U.S., and will likely seek new partners. Two visions clash: Trump's zero-sum nationalism versus Canada's rules-based order. The path chosen will echo far beyond the border, shaping global trade and alliances. The world is watching North America's next move. The future of the continent and its character hangs in the balance.